What if we take LeBron James, one of the greatest athletes ever, and make him team up with Stephen Curry, the biggest rival throughout his legacy? Meaning LeBron is drafted in 2009 by the Warriors to team up with a rookie Steph Curry and change NBA history forever. Which leads us to wonder, how many rings can this duo win together? Because even though they're only rookies, they'd already be quickly putting the league on notice with very impressive personal performances in year one, although they'd find no team success to kick off their careers. But soon enough, as they follow out Curry's entire career, they'll be joined with some superstar talent as teammates, to include an MVP caliber player, all leading up to the modern day 2024. So you can expect there to be tons of awards and championships to come, but could they possibly win the most rings of all time? Because Bill Russell not only won one ring, but a whopping 11 championships in his career. So now the magic number is 12 for this duo to be able to go down as the most winning players in the history of the NBA. But it would be anything but easy, because in year two, while they'd end up making the playoffs this season, they were running into Dirk Nowitzki, a man on a mission for his first ring, and it wouldn't end well. Dallas almost never loses these Sims in 2011. It's like 100% a canon event that they end up winning it all this year. Despite the loss, as the next season kicks off, the Warriors were hopeful, which is huge because they need to win 12 rings with only 14 more seasons remaining. Luckily this year, they'd be getting some major help as the team drafts an elite sharpshooter, and now with Thompson providing some much needed spacing, the Warriors were looking like basketball's best team, but that wasn't all thanks to Klay. Steph was continuing to be one of the league's brightest rising stars as he built upon his first two seasons in the league by expanding his numbers further and earning a spot as an all-NBA guard. But while Steph was great, LeBron is where Golden State's story takes a wide turn. In year three, King James was ascending to a realm all of his own and establishing himself as the clear-cut #1 guy on the team. Steph's been great, but the production LeBron was able to muster in a variety of ways couldn't go unstated. From scoring the basketball at an unbelievable clip to high-level passing to find his teammates, and of course his underrated abilities on defense, without a doubt it was obvious he was the Warriors' best player and possibly even the best player in the entire NBA. After the huge year from LeBron, we officially have our first MVP between our two stars, which is huge because yes, they are working together to try to get 12 rings and surpass Bill Russell, but there's also going to be a competition between the two. They'll also be competing to determine who is the GOAT, and to do that, we'll track their own personal accolades throughout their career, which luckily for Steph, he may be having a chance to tie this thing back up, because the Warriors were on an absolute tear through the playoffs and could be poised for a trip to the final. But with OKC waiting in the conference finals, Kevin Durant would be looking to hold them in their tracks. He was the league's top scorer the past 2 seasons in a row and was the leader for OKC en route to the top record in the NBA. It was LeBron's personal match for the series, but even with his great defense, more often than not, KD was getting whatever he wanted on the court. And even if he wasn't, he was also paired with co-star Russell Westbrook. Russ had a size and athleticism advantage over Steph Curry, and stopping him would also be a nightmare. So it was no surprise that after 2, Golden State would be trailing, all until the MVP would lock in. Games 3 and 4 were shifting to Golden State, and that would make all the difference. LeBron was taking over in these games. He would average 31.5 points per night in the games played at home, which was the exact spark that the Warriors needed to hang around in this series. With hopes of a finals trip, they were getting this one all knotted back up, and as Game 5 approaches, Steph was breaking out with a huge game of his own, sinking in 8 threes that would go along with a 36-point performance that would be spoiled by Durant again. KD was one-upping both Steph and LeBron here with a 43-point outburst as he amazed his home fans and got within 1 win of closing this thing out to end the dub season. So now they'd be facing a game 6 with their backs against the wall. It all comes down to this, and in their biggest moment so far, both of our stars will go out there and leave everything they had on the court, living up to the expectations of one of the league's top duos and both carrying their own weight. But it still might not be enough, because in the final moments of this game, they'd still be trailing with only seconds remaining. We got a photo finish here in game 6, 3-point game. The Warriors are down with just over a minute remaining, trying to stay alive down 32 in the series. LeBron James driving it on Durant, pump faking a few times, nowhere to go. Great defense from KD. LeBron gets it again. The pull-up jumper, it rims out OKC the board. Westbrook with it now, 57 seconds left. If you're the Warriors, you need to stop, but Russ drives all the way past Curry. The lay for 2. If you're rooting for the Warriors in this star duo, this is not a good look. Down by 5, 54 seconds. There's still enough time though, but you gotta go quick. Steph, this is the man you wanted when you're down by a big lay. The step back is good. 3-point game now. My words got all mixed up there. I'm just locked in. I want the Warriors to come back here. Russ driving in again. Bogut there. He draws the foul. Just like that, Russ ties it back up. A very difficult shot for Steph to get it within 3. Super easy two for Russ on the other end to extend the lead again, but there's still time. 40 seconds left. Steph has it again. It's not in the MVP's hands. Steph is cooking Russ. These dribbles are insane. Russ trying to stick him. Curry, no separation just yet. He's still one-on-one with Russ. No screens. The pull-up jumper. It's off. And with Steph's shot missing, that would be ending the worst season in a disappointment. The NBA Emirates Cup is officially here, and today's sponsor, Sorare, wants you to play along and maybe even watch live in person, because they're doing a giveaway for a trip to Vegas to experience the semis and the finals of the NBA Cup live in person, but we'll talk about that more in a second. Sorare is fantasy basketball meets sports card collecting, and with $100,000 in cash rewards during the Emirates Cup, it makes for an incredibly exciting experience. And the best part is you can sign up and play for cash right now, all 100% for free. But if you want to take it a step further, if you buy a card on NBA Cup nights every Tuesday and Friday, you'll be entered into the Vegas trip giveaway. Yes, it's that simple to win a trip to Vegas to watch the semis and the finals, plus stuff like an encore photo and VIP access. So I know I'll definitely be playing. So go and sign up for Sorare right now by using the link in the description, and you'll also get 20% off up to $100 in credits on your first purchase. I can't recommend Sorare enough. It's the best and only NBA fantasy experience for the NBA Emirates Cup, and honestly the best NBA fantasy experience in general. So go make sure you sign up with my link, and again, shout out to Sorare for sponsoring today's video. But the choking at the end of the game sparked something in Steph. During the offseason, Curry obsessed on improving his game to help launch his team to the top. And even though LeBron was still shining as the brightest spot of the Warriors roster as he earned his second straight MVP, Steph was still having his best season to date by a landslide as he officially cemented himself as a member of the All-NBA first team. And along with that, the Warriors were looking completely unstoppable because they'd make it all the way back to the conference finals, this time up against the Spurs, who wouldn't put up half the fight that the Warriors endured last year against OKC. Their number one option was old and far out of his prime by now, and Steph was torching Tony Parker at every opportunity, eventually leading his group to a 4-2 series win. Meaning now Golden State was advancing to the finals, where now they'll have a chance to finally look towards catching Bill Russell. The final hurdle being the Heat with Bosh and their star guard Dwayne Wade. And of course, Bron would have been there, but he's a warrior in this reality, and come tip-off, he was ready to go. Didn't think the Heat would make it here with no LeBron. This should be an easy ring for the Warriors. My prediction was correct, because Golden State had no real threat of losing this series and wouldn't let the control slip from their grasp for even a moment. They were making this thing look easy as they made quick work of the Heat, winning the finals after 5 games and celebrating their first ring together, which now means they've made progress on catching up to Russell. But the big question now was, would the finals MVP go to Steph Curry this year, or would LeBron's dominant MVP run from the regular season continue here? On one hand, Steph's offense was as incredible as we've seen from him so far. He was averaging 29.8 points a night throughout the finals here, and the gravitational pull of defenders from his shooting from deep would be worth mentioning as well. On the flip side, LeBron may not have scored nearly as much as Steph, but he was doing a bit of everything in the court and leaving his mark on the game in multiple ways. He's already earned 2 awards in this competition for very good reason, and he may have done enough for another. But in the end, it can only be one of these stars, and it would be Steph Curry taking this one home, as the voters valued his scoring, meaning now he's within one of LeBron and would have more chances to catch him very soon. Because the following year, the MVP would leave Golden State entirely, and it would end up in the hands of Kevin Durant, who fast forward a couple of weeks would be getting blown out by our stars in the playoffs as they make their second straight finals, this time against Paul George and Indiana. Compared to Miami the year prior, the Pacers matched up much better than the Heat, with the athletic star Paul George able to go head-to-head with LeBron, and in the front court, the Pacers' huge lineup was giving the small ball Warriors a ton of issues down low. Before Game 1, the Warriors were heavy favorites in this series, but by the end, Indiana was silencing the doubters. The Pacers with a statement win here in Game 1, their defense, athleticism aside, they could really go head-to-head with the Warriors. This could end up being an upset. Speaking of Indy's defense, in Game 2, they were zeroed in on LeBron, who at this point was widely considered as the best player in the world. This defensive pressure would continue all series, and while LeBron still played well, it wasn't up to his typical standards, which is the edge the Pacers were hoping to find. Luckily though, the Warriors weren't just LeBron, and Curry was about to be unleashed. Steph had a much easier assignment with George Hill guarding him, and while LeBron would do slightly worse than normal, Steph was the opposite. With the brightest lights of the NBA shining on him, Curry was catapulting his play to carry his team with 3 after 3 to ultimately win 3 games to take a commanding lead in the finals. Eventually, Indiana would deploy a counter-strike to take another game in a row, but in what would end up being the last game of the season, Curry was sinking in a new playoff career high with 41 to help his team make it to the finish line, winning their second straight ring to bring their total to 2. And with how this series went, it wasn't a surprise who the finals MVP was going to, tying this competition all up just in time for the start of one of the greatest sports dynasties ever. As we all know, 2015 is the year the Warriors dynasty started in real life, and it wouldn't differ here, because right away history would repeat itself, with 2015 being the year that Curry breaks out into arguably the greatest point guard of all time. His offensive game had reached an all-time peak as Steph became the undisputed greatest shooter ever, and with that was coming his first of what could be multiple to come most valuable player award, meaning after starting off 2-0, Steph is now surpassing LeBron in our race. But history would repeat itself again come the finals, where LeBron was in full charge against the Raptors with his famous LeBronto nickname, and just like in real life in 2015, Steph wouldn't be earning the finals MVP, meaning LeBron, in the blink of an eye, was tying this right back up. This competition is going back and forth. It is literally completely up for grabs right now. Our stars would rightfully so be celebrating completing the 3P here, but this was only the beginning of the dynasty to come. In 2016, the back and forth antics for winning awards was continuing, with this time LeBron reclaiming the spotlight as the best regular season player. It was the same story yet again of his brilliant play in every aspect of basketball. Bron was easily one of the most, if not the most well-rounded players to ever step foot on the hardwood, and this year he was getting his 3rd MVP, already starting to develop a very impressive trophy case in just year 7. And Steph was right there with him, again putting up unbelievable numbers as his game appears to have no limits and continues to grow year after year. There may have been no personal regular season award for Steph this year, but undoubtedly he was one of the best players in the league this year, and it was the Warriors team benefiting the most. They'd land themselves a spot in the playoffs with Ball's best record, and series after series would be a breeze for the Warriors until they got to the conference finals. For the 100th time now, they were facing off against Kevin Durant and his Thunder, and while the Warriors were still heavy favorites to win this series, Durant and Westbrook were on pace for the upset after leading their groups through 5 for a strong 3-2 lead. And with their dynasty on the line, naturally, Game 6 was going to be a gritty dogfight with both teams fighting for this one. Golden State was putting their championship experience to use here and were fighting hard to keep the series alive, but down the stretch, the results were up in the air. The Warriors season is on the line right now, down 3-2 in the series, but they're up by 1 with just under 30 seconds remaining. If they can hold on, they force a Game 7. Russell Westbrook with the ball at the top. Steph Curry trying to guard him. He's getting the screen. Curry getting caught in the screen. He breaks through. Russ blows right by him. Russ, he draws the foul. Westbrook is an okay free throw shooter, not necessarily a great one. He does hit the first one to tie the game. His second free throw is good too. Coming out of a timeout, the Warriors dynasty is on the line right now. Steph Curry with the ball, down by 1. Russell Westbrook guarding him. Is it going to be Steph? Is it going to be King James? 10 seconds left. Steph, one-on-one. He's not using any screens. Isoing. Steph, he's deep. Steph, he kicks it to Clay in the corner for 3 in the win. Bang! Game 6, Clay delivers in the biggest moment. They force a Game 7. Following Clay's heroics, the Game 7 was smooth sailing for Golden State as they were in the driver's seat from tip-off to the final buzzer. And as Durant walks off after losing to Golden State in an epic duel, I'm sure he's thinking about how he can beat this team next year, but for now, the Warriors are being crowned champs of the West. And in the finals for the 4th time against Toronto, once again, they crushed them just the same as they did the year before, earning ring number 4. And this time it would be Steph who was winning finals MVP, but there was no guarantees our stars were getting many more than that, because the next year Kevin Durant was decided to join the Warriors, which meant there was one more star to share the accolades with in the finals, and with so much talent in the regular season we'd have no MVPs from our duo during this stretch. But come the playoffs, they were winning not 1, not just 2 rings, but a whopping 3 more rings, with Kevin Durant increasing their total to 7. But as far as the finals MVPs, these may be the most important of the sim. So for that reason, we'll come back to this stretch at the end of their careers to see how they did. As for now, Durant was heading up to Brooklyn to join the Nets in 2020, but ultimately that just meant more looks for our star duo again. Kicking off this new stretch with Steph Curry reclaiming the top of the hierarchy as he enters into a second prime of sorts, without KD relieving much of the offensive responsibilities. He'd crack a new career high on some of the best efficiency of his career to date, en route to earning his second regular season MVP to take the lead over LeBron. And the greatest duo of all time's stretch of utter excellence wasn't even close to ending, because even post KD, they were going to finals after finals, defeating the Boston Celtics in 2020 2020, and 2021 matched up with the Brooklyn Nets and their old friend Kevin Durant. But even though the Nets were considered a super team, they were no match for the Warriors. Golden State was winning this one in just 5 games to close out 2021. Then in 2022, it was a rematch versus the Nets, and the Dubs were winning just as easily. And finally, come 2023, they were facing the Miami Heat, led by Jimmy Butler, who would easily fall to the most impressive run of a team in NBA history, as Golden State earns their 11th ring in a row. And as for their personal competition, they'd split the Finals MVP in these 4 championships. Keeping things close for now, as unfortunately, the regular season MVPs will be going elsewhere. We've made it to the time period where Nikola Jokic is putting up insane numbers. He's going to get MVP after MVP. That's just how 2K Sims works. So from here on out, don't expect any more regular season MVPs for either of our stars, which really ramps up the stakes in this competition. Which, speaking of Jokic, he was in the way of our stars in 2024. With the Warriors adopting a small ball lineup for so long, they lacked any reputable center on their team, and as such, Nikola Jokic was absolutely feasted. Paired out with a major decline of Klay Thompson this year, and it was a formula for disaster. Our duo were trying their best to remain competitive in this series, in particular LeBron, who was still in the midst of his prime and playing like the best player in the world. But the reality of the matter is, all good things must come to an end. Finally, after 11 years of dominance, the Warriors were crumbling. Denver was defeating them here, so now, with only 1 season left, it's do or die time for passive Bill Russell. But one bright note would be that in 2025, Buddy Hield was joining our group. He was a knockdown shooter and was a fantastic replacement for Klay, who was leaving for Dallas. And what will be their last seasons, our duo were still producing noteworthy seasons, as they were eager to complete their goal of earning that 12th ring to become the most winning players ever. Their final push continued in the postseason with relatively little resistance in the Western Conference. Adding Hield into the mix was proven to be the exact boost they needed, because the reliable spacing was again allowing Steph and LeBron to do what they do best. They were winning their conference again, but their final hurdle would be the toughest. Well, they're matched up against a very good Bucks team here in round 1, and funny enough, it's kind of like a younger version of this Warriors team. Giannis is very similar to LeBron. Dame is very similar to Steph. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two duos match up with one another here in this climactic final series. Right away, this series was looking to be just as intense as I had imagined. These two teams were matching each other pound for pound, and it was a back and forth affair all the way through. Neither side seemed to be able to get enough separation to have the edge on their opponent, because as soon as one side would strike, the other team would rally back just as fiercely to tie the series back up. After 6 games, this thing was deadlocked, and with the Game 7 looming, anything could happen. Just like the first 6 games of this series, this finale match was another back and forth war that was going down to the final moments, and the ending was unclear. The final match of our stars' career, the final 81 seconds, determines whether or not they win championship number 12. Dame Lillard throws it down low to Giannis. LeBron guarding him. This is a size mismatch for LeBron, as great as he is, but he's able to get the stop there in Giannis. LeBron James on the break now, slowing it down. Tied ball game, just over a minute to go. That was a huge stop. They swing it over to Chef Curry. Steph stepping back over to defenders. It rims out. The Bucks pushing the pace down the other end. Dame has it here in the left corner. 52 seconds remaining in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Middleton swings it over to Giannis. Buddy Hield on him. Buddy gets blown by Giannis. Dunks all over him. On the other end now, the Warriors with the basketball. Steph dribbling it past Dame. His pull-up. Jay! Steph nails it to tie up this ball game. 35 seconds left. Giannis with it again. They're going to Giannis every trip down. LeBron sticking him now. Giannis just dunks all over King James. They can't seem to stop Giannis. You might have to outscore him. They might need a 3 right here, and you have the man to do it if you're going to look for it. Steph Curry, one-on-one with Damian Lillard. 21 seconds left, 6 seconds separating shot clock and game clock. Steph driving on Dame, kicks out to LeBron. Giannis and him. He gets the screen from Buddy. LeBron, the fadeaway 3. It's good! LeBron gives him the lead. Milwaukee, no timeouts. Down by 1, 10 seconds. Dame with the ball. Giannis in the post. Giannis gets it. Giannis versus LeBron James for the win. Giannis the drive. His lay is good. No timeouts for the Warriors. Dame bounded to Steph. Steph the full court heave for the win. It's off. It's off. And as the Warriors are devastated in this loss after losing to the Bucks, they fall short of passing Bill. But tying him at 11 is still an incredible achievement. And speaking of falling short, LeBron is still 1 trophy shy of Curry. But don't forget, we still got to talk about the KD era. As we mentioned earlier, they won 3 straight rings. But we did talk about who the Finals MVPs would go to. Starting off in 2017, where the Warriors were up against the Raptors. and it's been well documented who the owner of the Raptors is, so it shouldn't come as a shock that he was the #1 guy in this series, now giving LeBron an additional Finals MVP to officially tie this thing back up with Steph. And it stayed tied for at least one more year, because in 2018 against Cleveland, it was all Kevin Durant all series long. It must have been a canon event that Durant dominates the Cavs, because just like he did in real life this year, he was winning the Finals MVP, which means their competition all boils down to 2019. And over the course of their careers, both of our stars have had memorable moments, taking turns leading as the MVP, helping each other win championships, overcoming deficits, hitting game winners, and so much more. But now it can only be one. And in the final moments, it was LeBron James, taking the last Finals MVP to once and for all break the tiebreaker and establish himself as the greatest to ever play.